All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got a lot to break down in today's Friday live show, the last show of the week. Crypto prices are falling. Some people are calling them crash. If anyone's wondering, in the title, we're more responding to how people are talking about this pullback more so than actually being a crash. However, are we in the beginnings of a crypto crash? We're going to talk about that and whether or not a bottom is in or a lot lower prices are coming. Here's what I'll tell you. Right now, check your emotions at the door. If you're feeling super bullish or super bearish, I'm here to wreck both your worlds. The market is extremely messy right now. And I'm going to go through a full list of things as to reasons why the bulls still have a movement to the upside and we're far from the end of a bull market. At the same time, though, there are some things that are very alarming on the Bitcoin chart and some things that you need to pay attention to because a crash is not necessarily off the table. You guys will need to process this information with me, make the decision for yourself as to how you want to handle your portfolio. At the end of the video, I will talk about my plans on what to do with this information as we are at a crossroads. We're sitting on a very key support level at the moment. Will prices go down? Here's how I'll respond. Will prices go up? Here's how I'll respond. Make sure to stick around to the end. Smash that like button and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. If you like getting honest feedback, I'm not just here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm here to tell you what you need to hear. If you enjoy that, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and do not go anywhere. Before we get into that extremely chaotic stuff we're going to get into, the show is going to be great today, but it's a lot. It's heavy. Got to introduce the team here. Welcome into the Tim Warren YouTube channel, but I'm joined by the two guys, as always. We once were the bros. We have changed our names, but we remain the same. I got Smay. I got T Shrum. That's the only difference. I guess that is we're not all the same. We're calling him Taylor Shrum now, moving at a more professional basis. Boys, how are we doing today? I'm going to start with you, Smay. You're looking very dapper. I think you got a fresh haircut here more recently. Looking good. You don't? Okay, well, your hair stays short. It does not grow that fast. That's nice.
No, because I'm thinning. I'm balding. But
no.
It's all right, man. Hair is, who
Aren't we
even
all,
needs it? Who even needs it? You know what I'm saying? Like, listen, Vin Diesel makes do without it. The Rock makes do without it. I'm just, joining their ranks. So, but no, I'm doing good, Tim.
Good. I'm very glad to hear that. What about T Shrum over here? Again, a lot of people always are asking now they see the name of the channel change. They're saying, well, did Taylor Shrum leave? Is he gone? He's still here. Shrum, how you doing today? What are your thoughts about the market so far today?
I'm doing better than I deserve, Tim. I really am. Yeah, it's been a good transition. I'm loving Virginia. Virginia is a beautiful commonwealth.
It is.
You guys thought I was going to say state. Thought I was going to get it wrong. It's a beautiful commonwealth. It's finally starting to cool down again, but I don't know. I can't trust the temperatures up here in Virginia because I haven't been here long enough to be able to predict what's going to happen.
It's gonna be beautiful.
But just loving life. It's a great commonwealth.
Yeah, cannot wait to get up there. I am going to come see you as well. By the way, if anyone is going to comment here, I see a chat already. Someone saying the audio is breaking up. I'll say this, audio on our end is fine. I've seen this happen before. If you are watching on a phone, I don't know why YouTube is like this. On a phone, the audio can get choppy while we're to go. What I would tell you, if you're on a phone, refresh the screen as best you can. Now, I did see a glitch right there, so that was a little something. But do the best you can. Refresh the screen. You should be good if you're on your phone. Otherwise, we're going to continue on.
1 second.
Good.
From the technical guy here, guys, that glitch that you just saw was on purpose. And so now things should be coming in a little bit smoother. I made an adjustment, so.
He was on the Wi-Fi.
Someone type this in chat because I'm not going to have time because we're going to jump in here. If you're on your phone, refresh.
It should be fine now. It should be fine now. All right, back to you, Tim.
All right, let's get in here. Let's start off on the charts. We got a lot to break down here today. So let's go into it. Starting with Bitcoin, we are losing support at the moment. Could we regain it? Yes, we got a lot of the day left to get back up and come back above support level, and it should be fine. But in a nutshell, this was the support we were talking about the other day around 114. I told you if we lose 114 and we can't get back above and close candles up here, we're more than likely going to be pulling back to a whole lot lower of a level. For example, on this daily chart out here, where Luxago has given us a fresh daily sell signal of a red reversal, bearish momentum, and negative money flow, the target on the short end is still going to be in this range of 112,000 to roughly 109,000. Now, there could be a lot lower that comes in. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more here in a little bit. But that's what we're watching right now on Bitcoin. You look at Ethereum. Again, the other day I told you guys, hey, ETH is still looking good as long as we stay above 3,500. Well, we're testing that right now. Support is being tested across the space. Will ETH get a bounce or will it keep falling? The short-term target would be closer to 34, but you can't rule out the 2-daily sell signal as well, which is starting to kind of take some form here. And if that happens, that's the Luxago sell signal right there. We're looking back down towards $3,000 for ETH. Again, depending on how altcoins respond to what's happening next. Again, Bitcoin, I'm going to save this for a little bit later. The Bitcoin weekly chart, I hadn't checked the weekly chart for this indicator in probably 3 or 4 days. I'm looking today. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I do not like what I'm seeing on the Bitcoin weekly chart. Good news, I'm not seeing it on any of the other charts, but when it comes to Bitcoin's chart, I don't love it. The good news is, however, during that whole process, Bitcoin dominance is not taking off, right? Throughout this whole pullback, throughout this whole crash, historically during these crypto crashes, Bitcoin dominance finds itself skyrocketing as people are selling off their altcoins a whole lot faster than they're selling off their Bitcoin. Well, in this case, it seems like they're selling it off pretty equally, and debatably, you're potentially even selling off more Bitcoin than altcoins. Could a true altcoin season happen where Bitcoin has a dramatic pullback and altcoins stay high or continue to rally? We'll have to have that discussion a little bit later, but there's just some things you need to be aware of in the news. Again, I'm telling you guys the most important charts to watch right now. Bitcoin, just overall, how's the crypto market responding? ETH, how is ETH responding in relationship to Bitcoin? And then, of course, altcoin season, is it coming? Is it not coming? What's Bitcoin dominance chart doing? Those are the 3 most important charts. I'm not going to tell you we won't look at some other charts later on in the show, but those are the 3 most important. Let's circle back to those a little bit later. Let's instead get into some news. And I told you there's going to be a whole lot of bullish and bearish stuff to talk about today. I'll clean it up for you guys. We'll get into a whole list of bearish and bullish reasons that the markets could do either direction. And then we'll kind of break down towards the end how are we going to view it. Crypto dumping, crypto crashing. Why do you think this is happening? This is a tweet we put out here, I think late last night, actually, but a lot of new tariffs went into effect today. Most of these were not necessarily too big of surprises. You see a lot of these like Nigeria and Philippines and Serbia and Taiwan. And, these aren't necessarily surprising to people. The biggest surprise of the day, I'm going to throw it over to you, Shrum, to kind of break this down for us, is actually the increase over to Canada, right? We raised our tariffs on Canada from 25 to 35%, probably the biggest, most bearish tariff increase that we've seen. Now, Shrum, give me some thoughts on this. Why do you think those tariffs increased, and what kind of outcome do you think this has on the markets longer term?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think President Donald Trump is getting what he wants out of the Canadian diplomatic team. That's one way to interpret this. Another way to interpret this, though, is that Donald Trump and Scott Bessent and Howard Lutnick and the trade team in the Trump administration are not getting what they want out of other parties out there that they're trying to reach deals with. And it could be possible that this latest chapter we're seeing with Canada is, again, the Trump administration showing that they have bite, that they are capable of doing things that are crazy and unexpected onto one of our most close trade partners. And if we would do it to them, of course, we would do it to other places. China might be a place that we may be reaching an impasse with, and they need some persuasion and some reminding that the Trump administration has teeth more than previous administrations. So that could be a way to read it.
Yeah, so you're kind of saying this could be just another flex on making sure we're setting stuff up correctly with China and just saying, hey, no one's above getting tariff increases. That's kind of your overall take as a whole with Canada, correct?
Yeah, I think today it's August 1st, right? Today was when all the tariffs are unpaused, all the reciprocal tariffs. And I think, why not throw in since we're going ahead and just crashing this media cycle with bearish tariff, scary headlines, let's go ahead and throw another one in, and just to contain it all to one media cycle, and also kind of show adversaries or trade partners that are not willing to budge what could happen to them if they do not submit to the will of the greatest nation and the greatest economy in the world.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's keep going on. Let's talk about another headline that probably is causing some of this sell-off at the moment. If people are asking, why are we pulling back or why are we beginning a crash? It's not just the new tariffs. Donald Trump, we might have a whole section today called What is Donald Trump Saying Today over on the internet. Let's go to this one. Now, this is a report recently put out by the Digital Asset News quoting a message actually from Donald Trump over on his Truth Social account. I'm going to read it for you. But it said, based on the highly provocative statements of the former president of Russia, Dmitry Medvedev, who is now the deputy chairman of the Security Council of the Russian Federation, I have ordered 2 nuclear submarines to be positioned in appropriate regions, just in case these foolish and inflammatory statements are more than just that. Words are very important and can often lead to unintended consequences. I hope this will not be one of those instances. Thank you for this attention to this matter. His new sign-off he puts on everything. Go full screen here. Here's what you need to understand. I don't think we're going to war with Russia. I don't think we're going to escalate there. But Donald Trump, kind of like what Shrum was saying a second ago, he wants people to know he's not playing around whatsoever. He has put 2 nuclear submarines in position should he need to utilize them. Now, I think something is very interesting. This, I think, is still a flex, and I want to get your take on this in a second here, Shrum, but I was telling you before the stream, what's interesting is he's responding to Medvedev today. I remember months ago, and I'm talking about like back in February or January, early this year, Medvedev said something very similar about the United States should watch out. Russia is not afraid of attacking them, even if they have to use nuclear weapons. So, it doesn't seem like Trump responded to him back then. Why today? I think Shrum is onto something. I think that President Trump is definitely trying to throw some weight around and make sure people know he's not joking. That concept, even with the whole Israel and Iran ordeal, if you know what he's thinking, then you can pin him down and maybe have some leverage. But if you have no idea what's going on in the brain of the president of the United States, you might get a little scared and you might be more willing to come to the negotiation table. Is that kind of how you're reading this one as well, Shrum? Or what are your thoughts of this recent news with submarines being out there? This is, scaring the markets here a little bit. But again, do you think this is a long-term scare, or is this just a short-term thing? It'll be over by Monday.
Well, I think it's kind of the second movement this week in President Donald Trump kind of signaling to Russia that, there's only so much patience that Donald Trump has. He promised his constituency that he would end the war in Ukraine on day one. He's not been able to deliver that promise. So he's doing everything he can to deliver as many promises as he can to the people that elected him. This is the second movement because the first movement was the finger wagging we saw from Donald Trump and the bite that came with the bark on India, who he said, hey, these are some unfavorable tariffs for you all. We apologize, but you're buying a lot of energy and you're buying a lot of weapons from Russia. And they are engaging in a war that I promised my constituency that I would end months ago. So something's got to give. And India, sorry, but this is what's happening. I think these nuclear subs, are part 2 of that, right? He's showing strength. We'll also mention that this is all probably going to be contained to one media cycle, right? So there's only so far that these prices fall, and then just as quickly as the media cycle turns bearish, the media cycle can turn bullish. Donald Trump has figured this out, and we, at this point, we just have to assume that he continues to have the attention of the market, we could say.
Yeah. I think you're right on there. Let's get back into some charts here, though. We've already covered in the news. There's 2 big reasons in the news markets are pulling back here today. Number one, tariffs coming out, and specifically some surprises like the increased tariffs on Canada. And there does look like continual tensions over on the other side of the globe as America is sending nuclear submarines closer towards Russia. What about what's going on in the chart? I mentioned this before, but if you're just joining us, let's take a look at Bitcoin. I am not liking what I'm seeing on Bitcoin's longer term charts at all. So number one, I've been telling people, as long as Bitcoin can maintain above 114,000, maintain above this support level, we should be okay. But you can see right now, let's go to a smaller time frame. We are working very actively to break below it. This even came after some high volume earlier today, giving us a potential bottom position. I will tell you right myself, I entered a Bitcoin long this morning. Did not work out, clearly. I used a stop loss to make sure to protect my gains, but this was a trade we ended up not getting, even though a perfect bounce on support as well as buy volume came in earlier this morning. That has all been wiped out, and we are now moving down below that key resistance level. Price currently working to break below 113,000. I told you guys a couple days ago, if that does end up happening, that kind of confirms a daily sell signal, right? Red reversal, bearish momentum, and now we have negative money flow coming in here. Guys, guess what that looks like? Targets down to at least 111,600, or let's just call it 112,000, give or take, back to the highs we had back in May, or on the lower level, down here towards 109,000. But here's where it gets worse, right? Because you might be saying, darn it, okay, well, that's fine. I'll just buy some more Bitcoin down at 110, 112,000. That might not be the bottom, ladies and gentlemen. And I apologize because I have been looking at a lot of charts here recently. I hadn't checked the Bitcoin weekly chart in the last 3 or 4 days, and there's some things happening that I do not like. Now, the weekly chart's not over. Technically, this has not officially printed just yet, but you can see that's a pretty brutal weekly candle that we are looking like we're going to close on the bearish side, right? Literally just a couple of days ago, we were back up here at 119,000. You might be saying, Tim, didn't we get bearish divergence back here? No, what we're watching happen right now with this major pullback, this is giving us a sign of weekly bearish divergence. Not only that, we'll talk about what that means. A gray dot. For the first time today is when I'm seeing it. I did not see this the last couple of days. A gray dot is forming as well with recent red reversals. Gray dot now on the table along with that bearish divergence and negative money flow coming on the weekly chart with this recent pullback. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a weekly sell signal on Bitcoin. Keep that in mind if you go look at other altcoins later, but Bitcoin, weekly bearish divergence, weekly sell signal, that target, while I do think this smart trail will rise up as well, we're going to meet it somewhere closer towards 100K. The current smart trail for the weekly chart is all the way down at $92,000 at the peak. Okay. Again, I'm expecting this to keep climbing, right? As long as the price stays up here, this isn't going to flatten out just yet. It's going to keep climbing here. But at the end of the day, we have a sell signal on the weekly chart. That should not be ignored. We have bearish divergence on the weekly chart. Unless we get a major pop back up this weekend, that is not something to be ignored. And when you're looking at lower prices coming in on Bitcoin, why is it not something to be ignored? Well, let's just take a look back very quickly at the last time that we had a weekly bearish divergence. Let's go back over here into December of 2024. And even though we ended up having another rally a little higher a month later in January, look at what the bearish divergence / weekly sell signal looked like back in December and January. It pulled back where? Back down to the weekly smart trail. What happened about the time before that? If you got to go back all the way over here to where we had a sell signal over in March of 2024, bada bing, bada boom, sell signal comes in. Where do we end up bouncing? Weekly smart trail. Now, I could go back and show you the history of this as well. It also had the one before that, weekly sell signal, July 2023, pulled back to the weekly smart trail. Keep going, keep going, keep going. What you're going to notice, and there are a couple examples. For example, right as altcoin season happened in 2021, there was weekly bearish signal back in January. We didn't quite get back to the smart trail. But more often than not, when we get a sell signal on the weekly chart of this magnitude from Luxalgo, Bitcoin pulls back. I want to make sure I'm clear here. I'm not saying that I think the bull market is over. In the same way I told you guys, I didn't think, even though I thought we needed to pull back in March of 2024, and I thought we needed to pull back in December of 2024, I did not say that the bull market was over. I just said pullback incoming. And that's where I am right here as well, where I'll say, guys, if this confirms, if this weekly candle closes and we have bearish divergence and we have a weekly sell signal, we we need to strap in and prepare ourselves that Bitcoin might get bearish again and pull back closer towards $100,000 before we resume to go to new all-time highs. I know that is not what a lot of you want to hear. A lot of you are frustrated with this bull market so far. A lot of you might even be listening to what I'm saying and thinking, man, I'm done with this whole thing. I want to leave. I want to get out. Hold that thought, because that's an important thought. That's an important feeling you're feeling right now. Hold on to that for a second, because I'm going to address that in a little bit. But I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm not here to pump your ego. I'm not here to lie to you and tell you just hold on, because we're about to rally tomorrow, right? I'm here to tell you what you need to hear. And what you need to hear is this weekly chart on Bitcoin is concerning. It's not what you want to see. We'll go a step further. The last thing, again, we're talking about the news here. We have a daily sell signal. We've broken support. We have a weekly sell signal, a weekly bearish divergence. If you go over into the stock market, by the way, if anyone's saying, well, the stock market's doing so well right now, let's go over and take a look at the weekly chart over here on the S&P 500. Oh, would you look at this? Lower highs on the RSI, lower highs on our Luxago oscillators, and yet a higher high coming in here. Guys, that's what we also call bearish divergence. Well, we don't have official sell signal just yet. When you look at the Luxago chart, red reversal for sure. Oh, there you go. Look, right as do you guys see that? Right as I was talking about it, a gray dot's popping in and out. We are on the verge of a gray dot. And oh, by the way, money flow looks like we're starting to bleed here a little bit. The stock market is showing us some weekly sell-off signals with targets all the way back down towards 5,400. Again, am I saying the bull market's over? No, I am not. And by the way, these signals do not necessarily have to come to fruition. They regularly come to fruition. It's very rare that they don't happen, but in bull markets, sometimes bearish sell signals don't come. But you need to be aware that they exist. You need to be aware that the stock market is showing me a weekly sell signal right now, or the verge of it, that Bitcoin, the number one crypto, after hitting $123,000, an amazing feat, it is looking like a cool-off more than likely is what it wants to see. And again, if we were to fall back towards $100,000, I'll just show you this, $100,000 pullback would be roughly just below a 20% pullback. It is very normal and healthy for Bitcoin to pull back this far. If you were to go back to earlier this year, January into April, we had Bitcoin correct itself actually 32%. If you go back to last summer, back to the March to, where was the low here? Actually in August of 2024, we saw Bitcoin have a pullback of 33%. So the reality is Bitcoin could even go below that 100. We could end up falling down to 92, and that still wouldn't be the largest correction of this bull market. It would only be a move of like 26% to the downside. You need to prepare yourself for the possibility that that could happen. The possibility is there, and with a weekly sell signal, you got to also understand there is a probability. I'm not saying it's likely. I'm not saying it's the highest probability, but I'm saying you've got to entertain this situation for a pullback on Bitcoin. Now, again, stick around. I'm not done with the show. I got a lot to unfold here because that was the bearish case right now, right? Submarines in Russia, that could bring more conflict and uncertainty. You got more tariffs continuing to bring confusion. And then you have the charts on the stock market and Bitcoin giving us long time frame sell signals. These are not good things. And it's enough to make you say, I need to think twice before I'm buying right this second. But this is what's going to make everything so confusing, because I also have a full list right here on my notepad of reasons you should be bullish right now and you should maintain optimism about the bull market. Let's get the flip side of the coin. Let's take a look at the other side. Why is Bitcoin potentially more bullish? Well, let's start off here by going back to my screen and taking a look at the CME futures on Bitcoin, where just a couple of short weeks ago, back here on July 10th, we created a nice little gap. CME gaps are very common to pull back and close them. That's exactly what this more recent move has done. This gap started back here around $114,000, and we now have officially closed it. So there's going to be some people who say, well, this whole correction was simply a move to close that gap. We've done it. Now those same people are more willing to want to buy the Bitcoin dip. That's one argument to say that we are potentially bullish here. If I go to the Bitcoin screen, let's turn this off and turn on another indicator that we have been tracking for quite some time, and that is the global M2 money supply. Historically, Bitcoin follows this chart, and what this would suggest is that we should see a continuation of moves to the upside into September. Now, I will say what we're monitoring right now, after September, it does look like if we don't have a major correction here, that major correction might want to happen in September, as you are seeing the M2 money supply putting in a lower high and lower low here on those actions, right? So that's something to be aware of. But M2 money supply is kind of suggesting there was supposed to be a pullback in this time period, and we're getting very close to the period where we probably want to bottom out and start continuing to the upside. Not that M2 money supply is perfect, but if you go back and test it against past Bitcoin movements, it lines up pretty well for giving you good top and bottom times of the market. And it's saying at the moment, hey, this correction, it was in the cards. We're very close to bottoming out, and then we'll be making a move even higher. Brand new all-time highs coming into late September. So if you're an M2 money supply fan, this is also helping you sleep well at night with your long positions on Bitcoin. By the way, I'm an M2 money supply fan, so it's very confusing watching that weekly sell signal that corresponded with things like December's big M2 money supply pullback, with the M2 money supply pullback back in March 24. Historically, we've seen weekly sell signals correspond with M2 money supply sell signals. This time's different. M2 money supply is saying hold on, and weekly sell signals are saying, hey, we might need to go a lot further to the downside. Why else am I bullish? Let's keep going down the list of reasons I'm bullish, because everything I just showed you was Bitcoin and then the stock market. Where am I not seeing those long-term sell signals? I might see a daily sell signal on like Ethereum, where you can see here clearly red reversal, bearish momentum, and then that's a money flow bubble being formed. We could easily have a pullback on ETH. In fact, ETH, we told you guys, potentially if we end up losing 3,500, it wouldn't make, too terribly bad sense to get all the way back down towards 3,400 with ETH before it actually starts to bubble up. But the good news is, when I go out to the weekly chart, there isn't this bearish divergence. There isn't a major sell signal happening. ETH actually is holding up extremely well, and there's an opportunity right now on Ethereum for potentially it to continue to build up steam, as we are watching the Bitcoin dominance chart be in a very bearish formation of its own, where we have a potential bear pennant forming that could send Bitcoin dominance down below 58%. So we come over here and we look at ETH. ETH does not have the same long-term bearishness that Bitcoin has. Same thing if you take a look at, say, XRP. No, well, actually, I say that as I'm talking about this. There's Luxago showing a little bit of one. You could make an argument for XRP bearish divergence. Another coin has had some good moves here. Yeah, that's a higher high right there. So I'll tell you what, the XRP argument, I will say, bearish divergence does look like it's in place. Lower highs on the oscillators, higher highs in price action. XRP, tie it to Bitcoin. But that's not the case necessarily for a coin like Solana, where we have lower highs on both of them. A coin like Chainlink, lower highs on both of them. Ondo, lower highs on both of them. And we're not getting these weekly sell signals on any of these coins either. So a good sign overall is that while Bitcoin has some bearish divergence, the stock market has bearish divergence, heck, XRP has bearish divergence, most of the altcoins, including Ethereum, still look to be in a good spot to continue to the upside. If I was just looking at their charts alone, I would say these coins still have bullishness left on the horizon. Now, this is where it gets into it. Historically, in the bull market so far, you're not going to find altcoins getting away from a Bitcoin move. If Bitcoin's pulling back, altcoins have been pulling back. But there's one part of the cycles that doesn't happen, and that's altcoin season. In altcoin season, historically, Bitcoin pulled back pretty dramatically, by the way, while altcoins take off. And there's kind of this action where people take profits on Bitcoin and they move them into alts that they think can run a little bit better, right? So if there's not a massive macro reason for things to pull back other than I'm looking at the stock market, I'm looking at Bitcoin, they're overextended, they're overpriced at the moment, let's take some profit and let's go move them into altcoins, this could actually itself be the beginning of altcoin season. Not promising it, not guaranteeing it, but that's the situation we're kind of lining ourselves up with. But you need to be prepared for both. If Bitcoin falls back, altcoins could absolutely follow. or we could see this be the absolute launch into altcoin season. What are some other reasons right now that I'm bullish on the markets as a whole? You can go off my screen for just a second. I'm going to talk about two things actually that are you're going to think are bearish. You would almost say it on the nose, this should be bearish, Tim, but actually I get bullish when this stuff happens. Number one, go over onto X. The bears are loud today. They've been loud for the last couple of days. Go watch a lot of YouTube channels of some of your favorite crypto bears. They get very quiet, right? Bears get very quiet when everything's going well. They love to come roaring back the minute the slightest pullback happens. And I'm not saying every time, because again, this dip could continue, but a lot of times when the bears start roaring and beating their chest, despite the fact that crypto is pretty high, it's a pretty good bottom signal happening. And I'm seeing that all over X today. There even was a post over here. Let's maybe make sure I find the right one. There we go. Let's go to my screen here, Smay. A post from Watch.Guru came out here yesterday, and this probably higher at this point, by the way, but this was from hours ago, this morning at 11 a.m., $805 million were liquidated from cryptocurrency market in the last 24 hours. These tweets, these X posts, have an uncanny way of being short-term bottom signals. For example, the last time I remember seeing a massive liquidation post from Watch.Guru implying longs liquidated. Let's go back over to Bitcoin. I'll show you the date roughly of when that happened. It wasn't actually the end-all be-all bottom, but if you go back over here, the last time we saw some of that was back in early June. In early June, we saw a post say, oh, this many millions of dollars were liquidated. What happened over the next couple of days? We would shoot from 101,000 all the way back up to 110. We wouldn't put in new all-time highs. We ended up going lower just a couple of weeks later. But another reason I'm bullish is because posts like this, not wrong one right there, posts like this from Watch.Guru actually tend to be reasons to cause a lot of retail investors to want to short and want to sell. And the number one tactic of the manipulators, of the experienced whale traders, is get the markets to go one direction, convince retail that you're certainly going even further. You trap them in that position when they either buy a top or sell a bottom, and then you shake it out to the opposite direction. So what am I saying here? I would not be surprised, even if we go down to lower levels. I wouldn't be surprised to see a bump in price come very soon, as people are extremely bearish at the moment due to posts like this where they see $805 million liquidated in 24 hours. That has a way of making people very scared and want to jump out of the markets right before a big move happens, okay? So you do have to play a little bit with that. That's a little bit of a reverse psychology move. But if I've learned anything in the world of trading and cryptocurrency over the last 5 years I've been doing it, it's that the minute you think you understand what the market's about to do, you get confused and the market goes the exact opposite direction the very next day. So take with that what you will. Some other things, obviously, that we got to cover, and it's going to be another major story, is something that caused a small pump this morning, but is causing a little bit more confusion long haul. Data information on non-farm payroll came out here recently. Let's get into it. A tweet we put out this morning. Non-farm payroll was significantly revised lower, and the unemployment rate ticked higher. We'll explain the significance, and Shrum's going to get into this in a second, but what do you need to know? Well, the actual report this month was 73,000, but the expectation was 106. Now, here's what's important about this, though, is because, yeah, we missed expectation, but you're going to say 73,000, that's pretty good. Well, guess what came out? Revisions of previous reports. So, for example, in May, we were told that we had 144,000 new jobs. Oh, wait, revision, got that wrong. Turns out it was only 19,000. But in June, we added 147,000 jobs. Oh, no, we got that one wrong. It actually was only 14,000. So we have been working over the last couple of months. The Fed has been able to get up. Jerome Powell has been getting up on the FOMC podium saying the job market's looking good. And with inflation not under control clearly just yet, it's not at 2%, but the job market's good. We can continue to pause rates and keep them steady. But it turns out this whole time, the numbers, they haven't been accurate. They've been lying to us. They've been fudging them for who knows what reason. The unemployment numbers ticking a little higher. We expected them at 4.2, but they're higher than last month. What does this mean? Again, I'm going to get Shrum to break this down in a second, but this means that expectations now have skyrocketed this morning that September will have a rate cut. Go ahead and remove my face for a second so people can see the imagery here. This is the CME futures predictions on a September rate cut. If you were watching with us yesterday, and I think we covered this in the video, but we also talked about it in the live show on Wednesday, this number over here that currently says 19.2%, this is the percentage prediction that will stay paused in September. Yesterday, this was up at 63%. A high likelihood that we would not get a rate cut in September. Today, we have shot up to an 80% probability that we will have a rate cut in September. Why? Because it turns out the job markets are not as good as you would think. Last thing I want to show you, we have a little bit of a reason as to why these job numbers have not been accurate. Breaking news, Trump has fired Commissioner Dr. Erica McAntifer. I think I'm saying that right. That's an unfortunate name of the BLS for bizarre job figures and slams the markets. In a nutshell, if you want us to break this down, there's tweets all over the internet that say this. There's been an investigation into this woman right here who was appointed by the Biden administration, who has been forming the job numbers for quite some time now. There is very clear evidence that she has been fudging job information to boost the Kamala Harris campaign back in 2024 and now in early 2025 to work against any effort that Donald Trump's administration has. Now, I'm not going to say that she's damned with this evidence. I'm just saying what I'm reading on the internet. Tell me if you guys agree, you disagree. I would love to see the evidence come out. But the claim is that she has been manipulating data in the job markets for years now under political means. All I'm going to say is I don't know for sure if she's guilty or not, but these have been questions that I have been asking myself for quite some time, and I think some of you have as well. Sometimes these job reports, and therefore the actions of the Fed, have not lined up and made a lot of sense. And if the evidence is true, the claims that are coming from the White House are true, that she has been purposely faking and lying about this information, that is a massive scandal that is going to affect millions and millions of Americans. You know, one of the things that Donald Trump's been calling Jerome Powell is too late Powell. Well, here, I'm not even going to be mad at Powell. If the job market had been going so well, if things were so true, it actually somewhat makes sense that Powell would keep rate hikes so high. But if he'd had the accurate information, how much sooner would Jerome Powell maybe have been cutting rates early this summer? I'm going to put you on the spot here, Shrum, because this is a very interesting conversation. You're getting to a slight political realm, but it has massive ramifications for the future of the markets. How do you break down this information? How do you take this, what's happening with Erica McAntifer? Again, unfortunate name there. What are your thoughts on this issue?
It's about time. It's about time somebody went to the Bureau of Labor Statistics and just shook them awake and was like, what the heck is going on over here? I think when they wake up, they're going to say partisanship is what's going on over here. Check out my screen here, Smay. I've got these headlines from 2024, August 21st of 2024, NBC News. U.S. added 818,000 fewer jobs than thought, adding to concerns about the economy. On the labor side, if there's concerns, you do what? You cut rates. Another headline, government, U.S. economy added 818 fewer jobs than first reported. That ended in March. Okay, so August is the month that comes before September. September of 2024 was the month that they cut the federal funds rate by 50 basis points, a rate that is usually never employed except in extreme cases, a jumbo cut. Well, that's exactly what they did in September. 50 basis point cut. They cut two more times in 2024. Right into the election, you might notice, and then they haven't cut since. Okay, so there has clearly been some partisanship that has taken place over at the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It's surprising to me, Tim, that it's taken this long for the Trump administration to go sniffing around over there and asking questions. It sounds like they've gone ahead and just fired whoever this woman is, and they're going to come ask questions later. That might be the proper movement at this point in time. But what does it say? I mean, it says that we got to find new technology to gather inflation data and gather jobs data. It's very silly that we're relying on this, but I'm not the first person to say this, and by saying this, I accomplish nothing. So, but what we can accomplish is to realize that this week, has been extremely volatile. If you're confused, if you don't understand what's going on, if your investments are doing what you thought they were going to do, you are not alone. This has been very tumultuous. And if you'd waited till Friday today, you could have gotten a lot of assets on discount.
Yeah, I want to be very clear here as we kind of wrap this one up, but then get back into the market overall. It's very easy for people to jump to conclusions based off of something they read on the internet. And as you know, you can believe every single word you always read on the internet. It never lies to you whatsoever. I want to encourage people, try your absolute hardest to be objective when taking in this information. If you are a conservative, red-blooded Republican, of course, you're going to jump on this easy information and say, that's it, of course, corruption. If you're probably, more blue-blooded and you're a liberal Democrat, we're all Americans, but you're probably going to be like, well, this sounds like a Donald Trump accusation. Is it actually true? Or is it just him finding some form of a scapegoat? I saw someone put in chat. Is this an excuse? Is this an unfortunate woman who's actually been doing the best job she can? And unfortunately, she's caught in this whole political landscape. The reality is we need to see what the actual evidence is before we jump on any bandwagon whatsoever. But I really do hope that all of us can agree that if it is true that there was corruption of this magnitude, Republican or Democrat, like if we found Republicans creating chaos and corruption during a Democrats regime, we should be calling that out as well. That is unacceptable because again, when you're lying about details for political purpose, you are affecting the lives of millions of Americans. There will be people because of decisions. If there is corruption here, there will be people who will lose their jobs. There will be people who will lose their homes. There will be people who go hungry because of people just trying to boost their own political side. Hopefully, justice does prevail in this case. Whatever that justice is she innocent? Is she guilty? Was it corruption? Was it not corruption? What we need to make sure we understand here, though, is hopefully the Fed does take this information. They make the right decision moving forward. And that is going to bring to the next question. And why is this potentially on the bullish side? Because it's looking more than likely that a September rate cut is on the way. And look, rate cuts will bring liquidity. Liquidity will give more cash flow to risk on assets like the cryptocurrency space. However, we don't have another meeting until September. We just had an FOMC meeting days ago. We're now unveiling this corruption now. Will there possibly be an emergency meeting sometime in August to cut rates sooner than the September meeting? Let me know in the chat, what is your guys' thoughts about that? Shrum, I'm going to bring you back up for that, and then we'll go back into some other topics here. What do you think the odds are right now that we get an emergency rate cut in August?
I don't think there's zero, Tim. I don't think there's zero, but I would have to look how many more labor prints are there between now and August. I mean, if the Fed doesn't think they're going to get any incoming data, even from ADP, then why make an emergency meeting and act on essentially zero data? I think it's possible, though. I think if there's some kind of outcry, maybe some protesting, something that goes on that clearly signals that unemployment is a lot higher than the data is showing, and the data is not reliable, which what we saw print today kind of clearly indicates that. And there's a pattern of it. It's not an anomaly, just resigned to just Friday. I think there could potentially be an outcry, but I wouldn't put my money on it. I'm definitely not betting that there's going to be an emergency meeting where the Fed would have to cut. I also, but it's not possible, but it is possible. The other thing too is that would probably just spook the market if they had to have an emergency meeting. I don't know that it's escalated to that level yet, but they should have cut 100 basis points like in January, right? So I'm obviously on the side they need to cut, but I don't think an emergency meeting is the way to do it.
Yeah, I think that's something it's very interesting what you said. It would spook the markets. Well, which is worse? Should they spook the markets with an emergency meeting and make a rate cut to try to hold off a bigger dump? Or should they drag their feet if there is a major problem in the jobs market, wait until September, and ultimately then start a mini recession? Now, I don't want to spook the market and say I think a recession is absolutely coming, but it's absolutely one of those things. If you hold off on rate cuts for too long, you do unfortunately start a recession. Jerome Powell actually mentioned this in Wednesday's FOMC meeting, where he talked about the complexity of his position and what he has to make decisions. You cut rates too soon and you increase inflation, making everything more expensive for the American consumer, and you have a problem. But you wait too late to cut rates and you start a recession where jobs are lost, and it's going to take quite some time before those companies get back on their feet to add jobs back to the markets. So there's a big game here that you have to try to time this correctly, and that's one of the reasons why Donald Trump has been calling him too late Jerome Powell, insulting him left and right. Whatever you believe about the political ramifications, this does put pressure on Jerome Powell because he's been very clear that one of the biggest reasons he has not cut rates is because the job market is so strong. He can't make that argument right now. If he were to be in front of a podium right this second, he would absolutely have me walk back something he's saying and confessing, yes, the Fed needs to take this very concerning, they need to be concerned very much so here with the job future, as it looks like we've had inaccurate information for quite some time. So it is going to be interesting to see how this plays out. In a nutshell, though, I'm adding this to the list of bullish things here. I want to go back through it because I saw someone in chat kind of mention here earlier, quit it with these neutral titles. Either tell us which way it's going or don't make a video at all. All right. Transparency time here, everybody. I don't know how your favorite influencers that you follow act and if they just lie to you on a regular basis. I don't get on here and lie to people. I'm not always right. I want to be very clear. I am not always right. You guys probably could even show me several times where I've been bullish and then we end up falling back and then I've been bearish. We end up rallying. Nobody's right 100% of the time. Anyone who claims to be, they're lying. I'm not going to get on here and lie to you. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear to get clicks and likes. When I'm bullish and I'm definitively bullish, you will see definitively bullish titles on our content. When I am bearish and definitively bearish, you will see bearish titles in our content. And when I'm sitting here saying, man, this is a confusing market and we really could go up or could go down, you will see neutral titles. And the reason why is because I believe in transparency and honesty. If you don't believe in that, that's completely fine. You don't have to watch this channel. But I feel like a lot of you guys actually appreciate that about our community and our group, is that we don't lie to you just to make you feel better. We don't just try to get clicks and likes. I genuinely want to see you guys succeed. And if I'm confused, I guarantee you you're confused. And what good would it be if I'm confused about what the next move of the market is for me to stay completely silent and leave you out to dry? No, you need to see when I'm confused. You need to know when we're at a place where it could go up, could go down. And that's going to bring us in the next part of the show. Because when you're confused and when you don't know how to predict bullish or bearish next movements, your planning becomes increasingly important. And that's what I want to get into with you guys is how do you operate when you don't know what the next move is going to be? You have to be prepared for both directions. And that's what I'm about to tell you right now is my plan. Let's go back over into the charts where we're going to look at Bitcoin falling back here. I've told you in the show, there's a lot of reasons to be bullish right now. There's a lot of reasons, especially, again, if you just pulled up, for example, the M2 money supply, to think that Bitcoin is about to return a much larger, bigger bullish move, and we could keep rallying into September. It did not load for me. Give me just a second. Click on it again. There we go. Anticlimactic there. The M2 money supply would suggest we're about to bottom out. We're about to rally. We're going to hit new all-time highs, and then we'll have a larger correction in September. So for this reason, because there are reasons, we just filled the CME gap. Because the M2 money supply is still bullish. Because altcoins as a whole are not showing us negative characteristics like Bitcoin. Because the sentiment actually would set up a perfect bear trap scenario, and because now it absolutely looks like rate cuts are coming, I'm not selling my cryptocurrency. Will I look for short positions in my trading group? Absolutely. We're going to be covering that right after the show's over here today. We're going to be looking at opportunities and how we might short, because I do think prices should be moving a little bit lower. But I'm not closing out any of my spot long positions, and even some of my swing trade longs. If you guys haven't been in our group, we have Bitcoin swing long set up from way back at 75,000. We have coins that we're massively in profit. My plan is not to exit these longs, because what happens if we bounce right here and take off and the bulls take over? Well, in that case, I want to stay in my holdings. I want to make some money. But what I'm going to do, let's pretend, for example, that I had a long back here with Bitcoin, okay? And I put my stop loss, let's just pretend to put my stop loss somewhere around $70,000, and I have take profit all the way up here. Let's turn this off just to get rid of some of the noise here on the charts. Let's say I have this trade all the way up towards $150,000. In fact, by the way, this is kind of the setup that I do have a trade on Bitcoin. My stop loss, when I set it up, we are not in danger of hitting that whatsoever. Let's put a nice line on my stop loss. I already have moved this stop loss all the way up here below the recent higher low at $97,000. What does this do? This allows me to stay in my trade that I have a great position for. And in that case, if Bitcoin comes right here and bounces at 109 or bounces somewhere higher and keeps going, I keep my position. But if it drops back down, and I'm right that we go back down towards 100 or a little bit below 100,000, I exit in profit and I look for the next entry to get back in, and I enter a brand new trade. Either way, I remain profitable in both these situations, and I get a better opportunity to make even more money down the road by looking at potentially getting out around 97, 98 and re-entering closer towards 92. In this situation, I'm prepared for both a bullish and a bearish formation. Stop losses, I tell people this all the time in our trading group, stop losses save lives. I know that sometimes you're thinking, man, if I don't have a stop loss, you can go up my screen for a second here, Smay. If I don't have a stop loss and I'm not concerned about risk management, I can risk a lot and I can make a lot of money when I risk a lot. But without proper risk management, without proper stop loss, you also can lose a whole lot of money very, very fast. Have you ever been in a situation where you're trading and you actually had a great trade set up and you're up a couple $1,000s and you're feeling brilliant, but your brain is saying, oh, don't take profit yet. If it goes higher, I could turn this, $2,000 profit into more like $10,000 of profit. But then before you know it, the prices start falling and you're actually down $500 to $1,000. And you just wiped out all those profits you just made. That's where risk management comes in, ladies and gentlemen. You might not always have the most profit all the time, but the name of the game in the world of investing and trading is win more than you lose. Take profit when you can. The first sign of hesitancy, make sure you're setting yourself up for a win-win situation. And despite the fact that I don't know which one's going to happen next, I don't know if Bitcoin's about to explode up to 150,000, and then there's arguments for it, or if we're about to pull back down below 100,000, which again, there's arguments for it. No matter what happens, I have a plan put in place to prepare myself for profit taking in both situations and where to reallocate money should we fall back down to the downside so that I can make money in the future. Because despite the fact that there are some bearish signals, the long-term macro perspective remains extremely bullish for both Bitcoin and altcoins alike. So make sure that you don't just sit here and say, I want an influencer to tell me exactly what I want to hear, or I want an influencer to be right 100% of the time, because that's not going to happen. Make sure you're finding people who help you set up proper strategies for either direction. Believe it or not, even when you don't know when the next move is, there are ways to make money in these markets. And if you don't know how to do that, highly recommend joining our VIP trading group, where every single day we look at the markets, we teach people technical analysis, we teach people proper risk management, even though not all of our members always follow it, and that's a problem. But we teach people what they need to know to set them up for success. That's something I highly recommend you guys go check out the link down below and join. Again, I'll be live here right after this is over. I'm going to take like a 2-minute break and then jump in with our VIP trading group to talk through even more how to set ourselves up for success. But in this situation, I want to be just 110% honest and clear with you. It is going to be a confusing next couple of days and confusing next couple of months. Be prepared for either direction. And when you're prepared, you'll still find a way to make money. Those people who commit themselves right now to fully bearish or fully bullish, they might get a little bit stopped out, confused, frustrated, and they'll quit the investing game altogether. If you quit investing, that means you are putting your faith in the US dollar fiat currency. Guys, there's a lot of things that could go wrong in this world, but if there's one certainty out there, is that people that put their faith in the US dollar will be sorely disappointed. Learn how to invest, learn how to trade properly. That's what we're all about at this channel. And again, if you don't like that, if you just want me to make a video predicting up or down and eliminate the potential of the other direction, this isn't the channel for you. There's a couple out there that I think would do you well, but be prepared to get very frustrated, confused, and ultimately you're probably going to end up quitting the crypto game in the long haul. Shrum, I want to send it over to you. What are your takes and thoughts on this? You're a guy who does some charts, not as many charts. How are you feeling right now with all the mixed information coming at us right now in the markets?
Yeah, I just dropped a link to our Discord. There's a free version and there's also the paid VIP trading group, so you guys can get access to that there in the link in the chat. And there's a link to our trading group in the description of this video as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I've got my hodl hat on, right? Because I'm hodling and I'm looking at this dip. I'm thinking, man, I wish I had waited until Friday to buy these assets, whether they be Amazon or whether they be Bitcoin or Ethereum today. I wish I'd waited until Friday. But I'm licking my lips, right? Because this is discounted price in an asset that I have high conviction on the Mag 7 side and on the crypto side, right? And so I'm just licking my lips, but I'm also thinking I probably should hold off before I deploy more dry powder, based on what you're saying, Tim, what you're seeing, and also just the general sentiment. I mean, one of the phrases that emerged from this latest chapter with Iran, where we dropped the bunker bombers on nuclear facilities there, is that you sell the bombs and you buy the body count, right? I don't think that that's going to be applicable. I pray to God that that's not going to be applicable here with these nuclear submarines, right? But you sell the escalation and you buy the resolution. That's probably a better takeaway than what I just said. But that's kind of my feeling here, is that there's more to come. There's going to be a bit more blood in the streets, going to get a little worse before it gets better. But ultimately, I have high conviction in names like Chainlink, like Uniswap, Aave, Ethereum, Solana, even Cardano, and obviously Bitcoin, but also Tesla, even Amazon, Google, Microsoft. Like, these are names that I'm not selling. I don't want to throw these away and only get dollars back, right? And I certainly don't think I'm going to find good yield in bonds. What I want is good investments, and investments don't always go straight up. But that's the blessing to folks who want to buy them at discounts, like myself. So I'll probably be deploying on Monday. We'll see what happens over the weekend. But I definitely want to find the bottom for this pullback, and I want to buy as much as I possibly can in these assets that I think are going to go up once we have quantitative easing. And if you look at Polymarket right now, Polymarket has not been higher this cycle. If you go back to this goes back to the full month of June. Polymarket has not been higher for a rate cut in September. I'm not saying we're going to 100% get it, but you have to look at the facts on the ground. And this is a very bullish movement, but there's also bearish things going on too. That's volatility. That's how you make money in investing. You don't just get free money handed to you. That's not how it works. But in the same way, you don't have to give up your money either. So I'm definitely not selling for a loss, but I'm also waiting a little bit to buy, and because I'm anticipating this to get a little bit more bloody before it gets fully resolved.
Another thing that you can do is make sure you find assets that have lower volatility. When you're riding waves of chaos, you still want to hold some volatility, but maybe you want a majority of your money in a place that's less volatile. There's really not a better place right now. Again, the gains aren't necessarily as good, but gold is a great place to be holding your money and your value if you want to stay away from the dollar, but sometimes the crypto is a little too volatile and it could go up, could go down season. So check out gold is another option. And by the way, speaking of gold, there's a great place you can go to buy digital gold right now, backed by the real thing, and that's with Kinesis, one of our partners here at the channel. Not only do they have really cheap crypto fees to buy cryptocurrency, so I highly recommend it for that as well, but in a season like right now, if you're not sure what the next move is, wait for confirmation, store your value somewhere safe. Gold is a great option. And oh, by the way, when you hold it with Kinesis, you earn a monthly yield as well. So they're rewarding you for holding your value over there, and you're sitting there maintaining a high value all at the same time. Go check out Kinesis, give them a call, tell them that people from the Tim Warren community sent you, and you'll get yourself some good deals over there as well. Guys, that's probably going to wrap up our show here for today. In a nutshell, it's going to be a crazy next couple of weeks. Lock in, get ready, prepare your plan. Whether you're wanting to long and stay in your long, whether you want to short, have a plan and a situation for both directions, because it's going to be a bumpy ride. But if you can withstand and hold on through that bumpy ride, Guys, in the next couple of months, we're going to look back at this and say, hey, remember when we were so scared right there in the beginning of August? We just didn't know what was going to happen. Man, I'm so glad I held on to my crypto. I'm so glad I didn't leave the space. I'm so glad I continue to lock in and subscribe and watch daily content from channels like the Bros and Tim Warren Community to make sure I didn't lose my footing in this crypto holdout. So that's something I'll encourage you continue to do. Smash the like, subscribe to the channel. We'll see you on Monday. Get ready.